Lake Superior sleet knifes the ore dock. A boy hugs a red scarf stitched LEO as chains rattle overhead. "Who locked you in here?" I ask. Lake Superior doesn't fall as snow tonight. It falls as knives, sleet needling every seam of my jacket, bouncing off the steel ribs of the ore dock like a handful of nails flung at the sky. I cup my flashlight and move under the conveyor trestle, boot soles skidding on black ice, radio crackling with wind. The lake breathes like something alive below, dark and heaving, the red beacon at the harbor mouth blinking through the blur. "Marquette PD, Patrolman Walsh," I call, voice low. The sound dies against steel. Somewhere above, a loose chain skips and clacks. Regular, wrong, like someone's heartbeat gone off tempo. That's when I see him. He's a small knot of a kid wedged behind a pallet of sandbags and spare tie-downs, a scarecrow outline in a soaked hoodie. He's got a scarf pressed to his chest so tight his knuckles are white. The scarf is bright as a flare in all this gray. Red wool, rough knit. The name Leo stitched clean in black. He watches me through wet lashes, frozen and ready to bolt. 7, maybe 8. Thin. Too thin to be out here. I take a knee, hands open. "Hey, buddy," I say, letting the wind carry the rest away. "I'm Evan." He flinches at a clank from the overhead catwalk. His eyes track the chain as if it's a fist. No sudden moves. I tell myself as much as him. I slide my glove off and lower it, palm up. It's the trick my old man taught me for skittish dogs on winter rescues. Make yourself small. Don't crowd the fear. The boy's lips are blue. He smells like metal and old soap. Damp wool, rust, and something bitter that sits wrong in my gut. Bleach, maybe. A spray bottle smell. He pushes that scarf closer to his ribs and doesn't answer. "You hurt anywhere?" I ask. "You cold?" "Dumb question. I've got heat in the cruiser, and something warm to eat." "Shh," he says. It's not for me. He tips his head toward the black run of the dock. The chain above us swings. On the far side, the ore yard throws up a low yellow glow. Locker rooms, brake sheds, the shadowed ribs of the rail cars waiting for iron pellets. A horn moans somewhere upriver. The boy's whole body tightens. Someone has taught him to freeze at a sound. I keep my voice steady. "Okay, quiet's fine. We can be quiet together." His shoes are stiff, that cheap vinyl that goes slick in the cold. He doesn't shake the way most hypothermic kids do. He goes small and watchful instead, like he's inside his own walls. The scarf. I can't stop seeing it. Red against the steel like a stop sign. Like a promise somebody made to him once. "I've got a pasty," I say, a little louder, as if that might reach him in whatever room he's hiding in behind those eyes. "From Gene K's. Beef and rutabaga, still warm. You ever had one?" His eyebrows twitch. Marquette kids know pasties before they know baseball. He licks his lip, and the skin cracks. "Can I come closer?" I ask. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. He is storm damage. He is what the wind leaves behind. I slide an inch, then 2. He watches my hands like they're writing something on the air he has to memorize. When I'm close enough, I shrug my shoulder bag around and unzip it slow. He flinches again when the zipper teeth rasp. I pull out the foil-wrapped half-pasty I didn't finish on patrol and set it on the sandbag, then tip the corner open so steam fogs the cold. His eyes go to the steam and then to the chain. He doesn't move. "Leo," I venture, nodding at the scarf. "Is that you?" He touches the stitching with 2 fingers. The move is reverent, protective. If the scarf had bones, he'd be guarding its heart. He nods once, barely. "Okay, Leo. I'm Evan." The wind shoves sleet into my collar. I ignore the sting. "I'm going to get you up and into heat. I'll keep you safe." He looks past me. Not at the lake, at the ore yard. My radio hisses. "Unit 12. Lake Superior Advisory's re-upped. You still out there on the dock, Walsh?" "Unit 12, copy," I say, thumb on the mic. I don't take my eyes off Leo. "I've got a juvenile. Cold exposure. Gonna need EMS staged near the ore yard gate." A pause. Copy. Up, health is ready if needed. 10-4. I clip the mic back and softer to Leo. We'll swing by the hospital to warm up, just to be safe. That sparks it. He shakes his head violently, scarf grinding under his chin. No hospital, he says. His voice lands wrong in this space, flat, scraped raw. No chains. The word freezes the night around us. Chains. The overhead rattles, and he flinches so hard he smacks the metal behind him. I catch his shoulder before he slips. He's light. Too light. The scarf edge brushes my wrist. It's damp and warm where his breath has soaked it. No chains, I echo. You're not going near any, not on my watch. He studies me with a look that has no business on a 7-year-old's face. It's the look adults get when they ask themselves whether they can risk believing. He tips his head, just a fraction, as if one small muscle inside unclenches. Can I touch your hand? I ask. So you don't slip on this ice? After a long second, he slides his fingers into mine. They're cold and bone-thin and fierce. He takes the pasty in the other hand, still keeping the scarf hunched high. We stand slowly. We move slower. Every noise makes him jolt. A forklift beeps somewhere, muffled by sleet. He squeezes my hand until it aches. At the dock fence, the wind hits us full in the face. The lake throws spray. My cruiser is a pool of yellow in the storm. I open the back door and the blast of heat fogs the windows. He hesitates on the threshold, checks the roof, the door lock, the ceiling light, inventorying control points the way kids don't unless they've learned the geometry of being trapped. Nobody can lock you in, I say. Child safety locks are off. Doors open from inside. See? I lean in, pull the handle. The door swings wide. He nods and climbs in, never losing his grip on my fingers until the last possible second. In the glow of the dome light, the bruising around his wrist shows as mottled shadows. The cuff of his hoodie is ripped. I hold my breath, counting the marks, the shapes they make. He pulls the sleeve down fast. The scarf he lifts gently and tucks across his lap like a small animal he isn't going to let die. I crack the heat lower to keep him from getting sick and move to the driver's seat. As the wipers struggle, a dark shape idles across the street by the chain-link fence, an SUV with salt-white streaks. The driver doesn't look my way, but the brake lights flare, then fade. It rolls on toward the ore yard gate and parks, engine running. My neck pricks. You know that car? I ask, casual. Leo's eyes snap to it. He doesn't speak, but the hand on the scarf tightens until his knuckles whiten again. Okay, I say gently. We'll take the long way off the dock. I pull us out, slow over the ruts, radioing dispatch for a quiet EMS meet at the public works lot instead of the front hospital entrance. I don't want to spook him with sirens, or announce our position to whoever thinks a kid belongs under a conveyor belt in a sleet storm. In the rear view, Leo eats in careful bites, holding the pasty under the scarf like a secret. Between bites, he watches the sky and the road locks and the way my hand rests on the wheel. Trust isn't a switch for him. It's a series of small lights, one strip at a time, flickering on. What's the scarf say? I ask when his eyes soften as if he's drifting. Stupid question. I know what it says. I want to hear him claim it. Leo, he murmurs. It looks well made. Somebody good with their hands. Mama, he says softly, and the syllables are a bruise. He rubs the stitching with his thumb. She said, if I get lost, I'll still have my name. You're not lost, I say, mouth tight. You're found. Hear me? He nods without looking at me. Outside, Sleet takes a breath and the world goes nearly quiet. The ore yard drops away, and we climb past freight sheds. The SUV's headlights ghost the corner in the side mirror and then vanish. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's the first shadow of everything. We roll into the public works lot. A city plow groans by, lights revolving lazy as a tired planet. I park under the sodium lamp where the snow looks like bees. Leo looks to the hospital's direction and goes still again. I'll keep the ambulance quiet, I promise. No siren. No strangers unless you say yes. Deal? He studies my face like he's reading for fine print. Then, slow, he lifts the scarf, winds one end around my wrist. Just once, a soft red loop. Then unwinds it and pulls it back to his chest. It's not possession. It's a test. The wool is warm where it touches my skin, and it smells faintly of laundry soap and lake air and the tiniest ghost of someone's perfume. A knock at my window. It's Pete from EMS, hat pulled down, carrying a blanket and a smile so small it barely disturbs his beard. He waits, doesn't peer in. Good man. Buddy, I say softly to Leo, my friend Pete is going to help me get you warmer. We'll stay together. Leo looks at the blanket, then at the roof, then at the chain that isn't there. He nods once. I open the door. Wind shoulders in. In the corner of my eye, a dark shape creeps to the end of the block, idles, then backs away into the sleet. My gut hooks on it, hard. Evan, Pete murmurs as he drapes the blanket and feels Leo's pulse. You did good. I don't answer. I'm watching the rear view, tracking taillights I'm not even sure exist. Leo's hand finds my sleeve through the blanket and holds. Soft as a breath, he whispers, Please, don't let the chains come. I won't, I say, and because my voice comes out too fast, I say it again, slower. I won't. Across the lot, a gate clatters shut in the wind. Somewhere back at the ore dock, a locker door bangs once and swings two. Health, Marquette hums at 2 a.m., the way big buildings do in winter, vents sighing, elevator bells thin as nerves, a whole city of lights inside one roof. I park by the ambulance bay so we can walk in quiet. No siren. No crowd. Pete meets us with that calm voice he saves for kids and heart attacks. He keeps his hands where Leo can see them. Blanket's warm, Pete says, low. No needles unless we say so first. Deal? Leo nods without looking up. He keeps the red scarf cinched at his collarbone like a tourniquet for fear. When we hit the automatic doors, the blower kicks on and a chain somewhere in the ceiling clinks. He flinches so hard I feel it in my own teeth. Hey, I say, stepping between him and the sound before I even think. That's just the heater. No chains here. He breathes shallow. The blanket slips. I fix it. We ride the elevator down one floor to the ER because that's where pediatrics routes kids after midnight. The car shudders. The safety chain chatter is a dozen tiny metal notes in the shaft. Leo pins his back to the corner, eyes on the seam where doors will open. Look at me, I say. Eyes on me. He does. He counts my breaths without knowing he's doing it. In, 2, 3. Out, 2, 3. The doors part to warm light, disinfectant. A big mural of a moose in a scarf somebody thought would cheer up a scared child. It works on me. Leo doesn't register it. He registers the ceiling rails for curtains and the way the crash cart has straps. Triage is Molly Grant. Dark ponytail, scrub top with snowflakes that don't look festive so much as stubborn. She's got the kind of face that tells the truth without trying. Her badge says RN. Her eyes say, I don't scare easy. Hey there, she says, not pushing her chair out from behind the desk. I'm Molly. He can keep the scarf. We'll work around it. She gets it in 3 seconds. I love her for that. Cold exposure, Pete says, handing over a vital sheet. Cores 96.2 and climbing. Pulse thin, no obvious life threats. He ate. Good, she says. She looks at me. You with him? Yes, I say. Evan Walsh, Marquette PD. Minimal touch until he says yes. He's scared of metal noises. Plenty of those, she says. We'll warn him. We can put him in 4. It's quiet. Room 4 is a small square with a curtain and a wall print of Lake Superior in August, which feels like a dare in January. Pete warms a saline bag in a towel, old trick, and hangs it low just in case we need it. Molly kneels to Leo's height and keeps her hands folded. Leo, she says softly, like introducing herself to a skittish colt. I'm going to listen to your chest from outside your clothes. You can say stop. You can say no. You can hold the stethoscope to make sure it's not a snake. It gets the smallest flick at the corner of his mouth. He touches the cold bell with one finger, then holds it to his shirt himself, eyeing her like he'll bolt if she lies. She doesn't. She narrates like a pilot. Left lung, right lung, good air movement. Heart's working hard, but it's working. Bruises live under dirt. We know that. We ask without asking. Any falls? Molly asks. Any places that hurt if I don't touch them? Leo's eyes go to his wrist and away. He tucks his hand under the scarf. Okay, she says. We'll leave that alone for now. She glances at me while she wraps a warm blanket around his legs. The look is not just nurse to cop, it's human to human. Then a quick trace of something else. Recognition. That name on the scarf doing work. Leo, I say, testing the ground. Do you want me in the hall or here? He reaches and hooks one finger in the cuff of my jacket, shy as a turtle. That's the answer. Here it is, I tell him. I'm not going anywhere. Molly takes a blood pressure without the cuff. She does a manual by touch, fingers on his radial pulse, stethoscope to his inner elbow over the fabric so there's nothing Velcro or tight. She writes the numbers, then tucks the pen away like it's a noisy animal. I wish every kid got a nurse like this. What happened? She asks me finally, still pitched for him to hear and know there are no secret rooms. Found him under the ore dock, I say. Storm coming sideways. He won't say much. He's afraid of the word chains. I think he's been near heavy equipment. And something about a car at the yard. I've got a plate partial. Molly's eyes flick again. Not surprise. Calculation. I can call social work, she says. We'll keep him here as long as we can until placement's safe, but at this hour they'll try to shove it through the usual channels. I don't want the usual channels, I say, maybe too fast. I want the right ones. Leo's head tips. He's listening. Molly adjusts the blanket and lowers her voice. Do you know the name Albert Ricks? I do. Everyone who's had a foster case in Marquette County knows it, not because of headlines, but because of the way his agency's logo appears on a lot of forms, and the way calls go unreturned when the lake news is bad. He runs Great North Placement Services, which sounds like a moving company. He isn't loved. We've crossed paths, I say carefully. When Molly looks at Leo, it's with a grief I don't know yet. He used to run kids through this place like laundry, she says, still soft, still steady. In and out, no eyes, no questions. On paper, everything looked tidy because a deputy clerk rubber-stamped the evals. People see stamps and stop seeing kids. She looks back up at me. I temped there last summer after I lost my stepmom. Needed the hours. I didn't last. Sandra Whitman, Leo's mom, handed me a call log and a ledger and said, if something happens to me, don't let them erase us. The room tightens again, but for a different reason. You kept them? I ask. I thought about burning them, she says. Then I didn't. They're in my locker. Leo doesn't understand everything. He understands tone. His hand finds the scarf edge and he rubs the stitched L like it's a prayer bead. Do you know Sandra? I ask Molly. Only from visits, she says. She was mad at the right things. Filed. Then she stopped showing. Rick said relocation. People disappear in paperwork all the time. The phrase makes me cold in a way the storm can't touch. Can you get me copies? In the morning, she says. I'm off at 6. But Evan, she glances at the hall. If Rick's hears Leo's here, he'll roll in with a folder and a smile that says lawful custody. He knows how to make nurses doubt their spines. We need a legal hold that doesn't look optional. I can get an emergency protective hold through dispatch, I say, already reaching for my radio, brain moving to the language I'll need for the on-call judge. Given possible abuse indicators and caregiver unknown location. Do it, she says, and call security, quietly. I step into the hall to make the calls. The floor is calmer than I expected for a storm night. 2 fishermen are arguing in whispers about a hook in a palm. A janitor glides by with a mop like he's skating. Overhead, a chain inside the ductwork sings that small metallic hymn again. I watch the ER door to the street, the nurse's station, the elevator. On the far wall is a framed photo of the ore dock in summer when it's all iron dust and tourists taking pictures. You wouldn't know, it could be a place kids learn the grammar of fear. Dispatch is good. Judge Martini, even better. We get a 48-hour hold on Leo pending a hearing. Security sends a guy I trust, big shoulders in a green jacket, who takes a stool outside 4 and pretends to watch a hockey rerun on the TV. He's actually watching 2 doors and a hallway. It's a language my body knows. When I step back in, Leo is asleep sitting up, his cheek on the top of the scarf, Molly's hand hovering just above his shoulder without touching. She lowers it when she sees me. "Hold is in," I say. "No one moves him without a court order or me." "Good," she says. The word is a sigh. I ease into the chair by the bed. The heater kicks again, and the ceiling chain ticks. Leo's eyelid twitches. The scarf tightens under his chin. I'm up before he wakes, palm open, voice low. "Just the heater," I murmur. "You're safe." His breathing evens. Molly watches us with an expression I can't read until I name it later. It's the look of someone who has decided she can't unknow a thing. "I'll bring the ledger on my break," she says. "If anyone asks, I'm fetching tea." "You okay sticking your neck out?" I ask. She gives me a small smile that doesn't need witnesses. "Some people get a necklace at Christmas," she says. "I got a backbone." In the hall, the automatic door whispers open and closed. Night air sneaks in. Security shifts his weight. The TV throws a different light. Even before he steps into sight, I know the walk. Men who carry other people's papers they didn't earn walk like the hallway owes them. A wool coat, too new. A face that smiles at badges and counts clipboards. Another man a step behind. The polite posture of a bodyguard who used to bounce at bars along the highway. Molly flicks her eyes to me once, then to the scarf, then to the door, the smallest conversation in the world. "Stay asleep," I whisper to Leo. The men stop at the nurse's station. Someone laughs too softly. The taller man turns his head toward 4 like he's smelling something he paid for and wants back. In the ceiling, the old chain sings its thin, bright song. Men like this always lead with paper. He lays a heavy folder on the nurse's counter with the care you give a cake you didn't bake but plan to serve. Wool coat, neat beard, wedding band tan. The bodyguard hangs back, scanning exits with the lazy focus of a man who owns other men's time. The wind shoulders the ER doors, and the chain in the ceiling ticks like a metronome set too fast. "Good evening," the man says, voice honeyed for the night shift. "Albert Ricks, Director, Great North Placement Services. I'm here for a ward of the court, Leonard Whitman." He touches the folder like it's a leash. "My office received notice he'd been found. We'll take custody now." Molly doesn't stand. She keeps her chair, keeps her voice, keeps the room on its hinges. "Visiting hours are over," she says, "and the patient is under medical evaluation." Ricks smiles a professional kind of sorry. It never reaches his eyes. "We appreciate your diligence. The agency is authorized to remove without delay." He slides out a document with a gold foil sticker that glitters under fluorescent light. Signed and stamped. I step into his line of sight. It takes him a fraction too long to clock the badge. "Patrolman Evan Walsh," I say. "We have a 48-hour protective hold authorized by Judge Martini, pending hearing. No movement without court review." Something small shudders in his face, like a shutter snapping against sun. He flips pages, performs surprise like a card trick. "How awful that miscommunications happen in weather like this," he says. "But the clerk's office stamped this guardianship verification yesterday." He taps a rubber stamp that reads, "Received, not granted." "You're holding a child who belongs with his assigned caregiver. I'm sure You can be sure of this, I say, keeping calm. The hold stands. If you have concerns, take them up with the court in the morning. The bodyguard shifts his weight, the universal language of prelude. Security's guy in the green jacket adjusts on his stool without standing. Not yet. The chain in the ceiling ticks again, and from behind the curtain in room 4 comes the rustle of a blanket tightening. Leo doesn't speak, but I feel his alertness like static. Rix modulates his voice for compassion. People who sell things do that on instinct. We all want what's best, he says. My agency handles placements for kids in crisis. No one knows the terrain better than we do. Then the terrain should not include ore docks, I say before I can swallow it. A breath, a misstep. He covers. Our drivers often pass the yard. It's a working town. Then your drivers should know the difference between a shelter and a locker. My tone stays even. The words don't. Molly rises now, not to escalate, to occupy air. Mr. Rix, she says, the patient's chart indicates cold exposure and trauma indicators. Medical need outranks administrative convenience. If you have a legitimate court order, the hospital will review it at a reasonable hour. If not, call your supervisor, he says without looking at her name badge, or we'll escalate. I am my supervisor at 2:10 a.m., she says without heat, and I have a backbone. His eyes flick to the curtain, to the slight shadow of a red scarf near the floor. He softens his mouth like he's seeing a puppy. Hi there, Leo, he calls, as if they share birthdays. It's Albert, remember me? The curtain doesn't move. My palms are calm by choice. Step away from the door, I say. He adjusts something on his cuff. That tiny gold foil sticker on the paper catches again. Official, if you don't know better. I step closer to read the stamp itself. The signature below it is a deputy clerk's name I've seen on 100 rote filings. Fast hand, smooth loops, too smooth. My mind notes without permission. A stamp is a door. People walk through doors without looking at the house. You'll want to be careful about interference, he says, meaning me. I'd hate for Great North to have to file a complaint that your department delayed a lawful transfer. You'll want to be careful about fraud, I say, meaning him. I'd hate for a director to discover his forms didn't survive discovery. The bodyguard smiles his first smile. It isn't friendly. Molly clears her throat, a small sound. Excuse me a second, she says. Tea. She slips away toward the break room. Her shoulders tell me more than her mouth. She's getting the ledger. Rix watches her go and turns the wattage up for me. Officer Walsh, you know winter makes people dramatic. He rests his hand on the folder. We don't, as a practice, store children in lockers. He pronounces the last word like something he's never used. But sometimes families misunderstand our facilities. Your facility's located where? I ask. Because the ones under the ore dock have hasps on the outside. His eyes do the smallest thing. It's micro, but I've spent a lot of my life looking at small things. His gaze flicks not to the exit, not to the hall, but to the elevator. Just a slice. Elevators are how you get down to loading bays. Down to quiet doors, no one pages. A soft whimper from 4. He hears it too. He steps, like he's going to brush the curtain aside and pat a child he plans to count later. Don't, I say. The word lands flat and steady. The bodyguard steps too. Security unfolds from his stool. We're 4 adults and a thin curtain and a boy who learned what metal means. And then the universe throws me a bone the shape of a woman's ponytail and a spiral notebook. Molly returns with a stainless mug, the steam a little dramatic on purpose. In her other hand, a battered ledger and a zippered pouch with a phone that has seen better cases. She sets the tea on the counter, then palms the ledger to me like a relay baton in slow motion. I brewed chamomile, she says to no one and everyone. Paperwork gives people heartburn. Rix smiles like he's thinking of donors. No need. We won't be long. I open the ledger. The spine thread is mended with red embroidery floss. It smells like the back room of any office that has ever pretended not to have one. Inside, careful block printing lists dates, initials, pickup points, drop points. Some lines read like travel. Others like a treasure map only monsters chart. OD, 3C, locker, extra toiletries. Courier Foster. Next line, eval, DCK hasp, extra. Okay, another date, same initials, 11:40 p.m., lake noise, child cried, handle with chain. I look up. Rix watches my face. I let nothing show. Molly taps the phone pouch. Call log from Sandra, she says quietly. Voicemails she left the agency that never got returned. Screenshots of texts with a deputy clerk, note the timestamps and the tone, and a ledger copied from their whiteboard before they wiped it. She eyes Rix. You remember Sandra, right? Mother. Stubborn. Hard to erase. He stops the smile. He doesn't like hearing a name he filed under completed. You can't take those, he says. That's stolen information. Liability. That's evidence, I say. Chain of custody begins now. I hand the ledger back to Molly. You brought this to me at 2:13 a.m. in the ER. We'll photograph and log it. You'll be violating privacy laws, he says. HIPAA works for patients, Molly says, calm. Not for agencies who chain their kids to their calendars. The elevator dings. That thin metallic hymn sings again. On instinct, I pivot so my body blocks the door to 4. Leo's breath behind the curtain quickens. I reach a hand back, palm open where he can find it if he needs it. Warm wool touches my wrist. The scarf, a small press of yes. Rix gathers the folder as if collecting his dignity. We'll return at 8 with the clerk's confirmation, he says, already moving toward the exit. The bodyguard holds the door without looking at me. Rix throws one parting shot over his shoulder like a coat you don't intend to retrieve. Children need structure, officer, not theatrics. Then stop staging yours at midnight, I say. They go. The automatic doors whisper. The air composition changes like someone opened a freezer and then closed it. Security exhales. Want me to tail him to the lot? I shake my head. Cameras will catch enough. And I want him thinking we're dumber than we are. Not hard, Molly murmurs, then covers the words with a sip. I take pictures of the ledger's pages with my phone. Angled, straight on, detail of the line about locker hasps and chain. I text our on-call detective with a please don't throw your phone message summary. I send a separate text to a number I rarely use, but keep for when the world goes like this. Arthur Pennington, CEO of Pennington Minerals. We nod to each other at Harborfest. He has 30 cameras pointed at that dock at any given time because he values ore more than I value sleep. The text is brief, professional. Request for last 12 hours on Dock C cameras. Possible child endangerment. He replies in 5 minutes with a number to his night security lead and the words, for the boy, anything. Behind the curtain, Leo whispers, Is he gone? He's gone, I say. Do the chains know? I swallow. Chains only do what hands tell them. We'll keep the hands away. Molly puts the ledger down and leans one shoulder to the wall like she needs it to hold something up that isn't her. If he comes back with that clerk, he'll try to bowl us with signatures, she says. Then we meet signatures with law, I say. And if he tries to touch that curtain, he meets me. The heater kicks on. The chain ticks. Leo's fingers find mine under the fabric. I squeeze twice. Molly checks the clock. I'm off in 2 hours, she says. I can take a run to my apartment and bring back the rest. Sandra kept a spiral of who signed for what. Names, initials, places. She hesitates. And a photo of a locker with an outside hasp. You took a photo? She lifts one shoulder. Some people keep saints. I keep receipts. I nod. We'll need every one. Outside, tires crunch over salt. Someone laughs at something not funny. The elevator dings again. Someone's fishing hook finally out. The ER breathes. I step closer to the curtain, not to guard it, but to be the person a small boy expects when fear takes the shape of metal. Sleep, if you can, I tell him. He doesn't let go of my hand. I don't make him. At 2:31 a.m., the ore dock exists in two places at once. Outside, taking sleet in the teeth, and inside a ledger where someone wrote the word chain next to a child's night. Pennington Minerals runs its own night. Fewer lights, more shadows, movement tracked by cameras men in ties never see. At 3:20 a.m., I pull into the security building off Lakeshore. The furnace rattles. The coffee tastes like a burnt promise. A wall of monitors shows the ore dock from 17 angles, snow bleeding sideways across each frame like static. A man with a badge that says Holt nods me to a stool. "Night security," he says. "Arthur called. Said this mattered." "He's right," I say. Holt thumbs a joystick and scrolls back through the last 12 hours. Time counters hop backward. Dock C fills the biggest screen. Conveyor truss, catwalk, the dark mouth of a locker row that looks like a row of teeth. We watch the weather walk through. "Pause there," I say. He stops on 1942. A white SUV noses into the service lot by the chain-link gate, hood salted white, back window spidered with road grime. The driver gets out, bundled heavy, head down. We can't see a face. The passenger stays in. Holt zooms on the gate keypad. The driver's glove leaves a melt pattern on the numbers, 0, 3, 3, 9. He fumbles, hits enter, and the latch buzzes. "Union keypads rotate codes weekly," Holt says. "Not that code." "Who else has it?" Holt shrugs. "People who shouldn't. Some contractors think codes are gossip." The white SUV rolls through slow. The camera on the west corner picks it up at a different angle, fisheye. The driver parks along the locker row. He opens a door I can count because the numbers are painted crooked. 3C. On the outside of the sheet metal door is a hasp, a cheap hardware store fix welded on, padlock glossy with newness. My stomach goes stone. "Who put that hasp on?" I ask. Holt squints. "Not us." The driver unlocks the padlock like a man who's done it before. He props the door, then returns to the SUV and leads a small body in a hoodie across the strip of concrete. The body walks, no carrying, like a kid told marching is the way you keep things good. He's so small the hood eats his head. The driver puts a hand on that head to tuck him past the doorframe. It's not gentle. In the glare, a knit red flashes for one frame, like a bleeding flag, then vanishes inside. I grip the edge of the counter. Back 5 seconds. Play slow. We watch the flash again. The scarf. Leo. Holt whistles through his teeth, a soft, angry sound. "What's in those lockers?" "On paper?" I say. "Spare rigging. On ledger, children." He cuts a look at me. He's a man who's seen bad nights and the men who manufacture them. "Print you stills?" "Everything," I say. "That door, the kid, the driver, the code sequence." We watch 20 minutes tick by. The driver returns twice, once with a tote bag, big box store logo crumpled at the corner, and once with a roll of paper towels. He locks the hasp each time, pulling the padlock to test it the way men test fences around dogs. At 21:06, another car pulls in, not the white SUV, a sedan with rental tags catching sodium light. The man who gets out wears a wool coat too soft for docks. He doesn't go to the lockers. He goes to the fence, makes a phone call, then leaves. The camera catches his profile for a breath. Holt zooms. "It's him," I say. "Who?" "Ricks," I say, smelling what he paid for. Holt prints the stills. The printer coughs the images out like it resents the job. He stacks them on a clipboard and hands me a pen. "Sign chain." I do. His use of the word makes my jaw tighten. "You'll want to walk through," Holt says, "before the day shift starts asking why security is crawling around their lockers." We go out into a wind that bites. The dock underfoot is a lattice of ice and rust. Holt keys the service gate with a code that looks nothing like EO339. Our boots grind salt like broken glass. The locker row looms. In the dark, the hasp glints like an extra tooth. Up close isn't better. The hasp's weld is sloppy. Bead runs like someone rushed. The padlock is new enough to feel oily. I crouch. The number stencil on the door flakes under my glove. 3C. Next to the latch, someone scratched a smiley face with a key, the way bored men mark time. Holt leans, looks through the vent slit. Smells like old soap. I work my flashlight into the vent. Light finds a shelf with many bottles of hotel shampoo, a roll of paper towels, a small plastic basin, a thin pillow with a vinyl cover, and a fleece blanket patterned with cartoon bears. It would be cute if it weren't in a steel box with the lock on the wrong side. On an inside peg, a tag hangs from a rubber band. It's laminated like someone was proud of it. Courier Foster, printed in bold, with a QR code that goes nowhere because there's no cell service under all this steel. At the bottom, a cheap logo. Great North Placement Services. Take the door, Holt says. We need a warrant, I say. But we can secure the scene, and if there's a child inside, Holt stoops, ear to metal. We both hold our breath. The lake breathes back. No shuffle, no whimper, my own blood in my ears. Empty, he says finally, and I believe him because I want to. He pulls out his phone. Let me call Arthur, he says. He'll freeze any paperwork on this location, deny contractor access, and put cameras on the cameras. He's funny like that. Do it, I say. We photograph the door, the weld, the tag, the scratch, the padlock numbers. Holt lifts the lock to see if he can read a key code. On the back is an engraving. GN3C. Not even trying to hide the brand. My phone buzzes. It's Molly. I answer. You safe? I'm at my apartment, she says, the sound of keys and breath. I found the spiral Sandra gave me. She labeled pages by dates. A month of names. There's a note in the pocket I never saw. Address fragments Mar. It's smudged. Or C. Or C, I repeat, useless. We're at Dock C, Locker 3. She exhales. Then she was right. Holt moves down the row, looking for other hasps. 2 more have them. 3B and 3D. Newer locks. The vent of 3B holds a plastic water jug half full. The vent of 3D shows a box of kids' toothbrushes, the tiny kind with cartoon handles that promise bravery to boys who learn to brush early and fear earlier. Leo said chains, I say, and he's terrified of the elevator and the ceiling clink. They put him here, they took him past the catwalk, taught his whole body to obey metal. Holt's jaw works. Arthur will ask what he can do without stepping on a prosecutor. Freeze dock records, I say. Send us the video. Keep your men off this row except me and whoever I bring. If a guy with a gold sticker shows up, call me before you call your lawyer. You just described half the men who come around here in winter, he says. But he nods. We head back through the gate. As we reach the security building, a truck rolls past, slow, windows fogged from inside. Not Pennington Fleet, not Union. The driver's silhouette is broad, head turned away like he's counting cameras with his cheekbones. He doesn't stop. He doesn't need to. He's seen what he came to see. 2 men with badges in the wrong place at the wrong hour. Friend of yours? Holt asks. Friend of Chain's, I say. By 4:30, I'm back at the hospital. Leo is awake, small and bright-eyed under the blanket like a fox in a den that smells like summer field. He sees me and looks first at my wrist. I don't realize until then that I left the red scarf's wool mark there, a faint line where he looped me. I touch it like proof. You went away, he says. I went to keep the chains from finding you, I say. Checked the dock, found where you were. He watches my mouth, suspicious of rounds that sound like promises. Is it locked? It's locked, I say, but not the way it was. We took pictures. We told the lake about it. I sit, careful as a priest, and lower my voice. There were little shampoos, a blanket with bears. He swallows. The motion is a fist in his throat. I don't want bears. We'll get you something else, I say. What did you want? He thinks. A lamp, he says finally, where you can see the door. I look at the curtained rail, at the light over the sink. I turn it so the door glows. He watches the outline as if the outline can hold. Molly slips in behind me with a tote bag, hair damp from snow. She looks tired in a way that reads as earned. She sets the spiral on the side table like a sacrament. Sandra wrote, she says to Leo, gentle. Do you remember her writing? He doesn't answer. He rubs the stitched O in his name. We'll read it later, I say. When you feel steady. The automatic doors whisper. The chain in the ceiling ticks. I think it's the heater until security's voice comes over the desk phone. Walsh, you've got company. Who? I ask. He lowers his voice even though the hallway is empty. Deputy clerk, with a briefcase, and he's got a man in a wool coat walking a step ahead like the hallway owes him. Molly's jaw tightens. Leo's eyes go flat as steel. I put my hand where he can find it. He finds it like he knows the geography now. Okay, I say, and stand. The red scarf's edge trails from his hand to my wrist, a small, live wire between us. The footsteps approach. Paper leads the way. The deputy clerk is younger than I expect. Late 20s. Careful hair. A briefcase that looks like it belongs to his father. He carries it like it carries him. Rix walks a step ahead, the way people walk when they've rehearsed this scene and expect applause. Security lifts a hand. Doesn't move his stool. Evening, the clerk says, clearing his throat of all the day he didn't earn. Deputy Clerk Kyle Hennessy, Marquette County. We've received notice of a child under agency guardianship. I'm here to confirm custody and facilitate release to Director Rix. He extracts a stack. Cover letter on county letterhead, a guardianship verification form with a blue stamp, and something notarized with a seal that gleams like a coin. His hand shakes just enough to read as nerves, not conscience. Interesting timing, I say. 3:50 a.m. Children don't keep banker's hours, Rick says, smiling like we share a joke. True, I say. Neither do warrants. Molly stands at my shoulder, spiral tucked under her arm like a heart you don't dare show. The red scarf's edge drapes over Leo's knuckles. He doesn't let go. I glance at the top page. The seal impression is off. Embosser rotated, state, crest, faint. The signature above the deputy clerk's typed name loops smooth as syrup. The date reads yesterday, 4:18 p.m. The line for judge is blank. Where's the judge's signature? I ask. This is a verification, Hennessy says quickly. Not an order. It certifies that Great North holds current placement authority. Placement where? Molly asks, too mild. In approved facilities, Rick says. That smile he keeps polishing, catching light. Officer, we're done here. The hospital has no grounds to detain. Release the child. Here's what we do have, I say, keeping my voice where Leo can sit in it. An emergency protective hold from Judge Martini, valid 48 hours. Doc camera stills showing a child escorted into locker 3C and padlocked inside. A private security log of the keypad access code 0339. Hennessy blinks. That's not a county code. No, I say. It's a chain link gates. Rix's eyes tick to the elevator again. Molly sees it. She doesn't move. I take a breath and make a call I wasn't sure I'd make at 4 in the morning. Pennington answers on the second ring like men do who keep their power on the nightstand. Arthur, I say, I need a lawyer who eats injunctions for breakfast. Already awake, he says. We're drafting. Doc C is frozen. You'll have the affidavit and camera chain of custody in your inbox in 5. A pause. How's the boy? Holding a scarf. He exhales, a sound of metal settling. Good, I'm sending James Bell, outside counsel. He'll bring a notary and a trooper. Don't let paper push you. Wouldn't dream of it. I hang up and meet Hennessy's eyes. A deputy clerk can't confer guardianship, I say, simple as a traffic rule. Courts do. Judges sign. Clerks stamp what judges sign. Your form's a receipt, no authority. It's common practice after hours, he says, too fast. Common is not legal, Molly says gently. Rix steps in, close enough to smell his cologne over disinfectant. Officer Walsh, I'm worried your attachment is clouding your duty. Attachment to the law? I ask. Guilty. Security's radio crackles. He murmurs something into his mic and nods toward the doors. Blue and gray, Walsh, he says. MSP just rolled up. Michigan State Police troopers walk easier than city cops. Heavy boots, light eyes, nothing theatrical. The sergeant's nameplate reads Vargas. The younger trooper carries an evidence kit like he's picking up his kid from daycare. No big deal, completely serious. Patrolman Walsh, Vargas says. Heard you had falsified custody docs and a vendor padlock where no padlock belongs. Rix straightens. This is outrageous. Our agency. Sir, Vargas says evenly, you'll want to wait to be outraged until after we look at the paperwork. He tips his chin at me. Walk me through. We take 10 minutes like a courtroom rehearsal. I outline the ore dock, the hasp on 3C, the stills showing the small figure going inside, the ledger entry Molly produced with Courier Foster and hasp exto. Okay, the keypad code, the SUV, the rental sedan with Rix's profile. Vargas flips the guardianship verification to the blank judge line and grunts. Who notarized this? He asks Hennessy. Hennessy swallows. Deputy witnesses are authorized. Vargas taps the misaligned emboss. Not this deputy, and this seal's wrong. County uses the new crest. He looks at me. You seen the new one? He turns to the clerk. You will. James Bell arrives with a lawyer's winter, expensive coat, eyebrows that don't waste time. He carries a slim brief and a printer-warm sheaf of papers. Behind him, Pennington's security lead Holt appears, a drive in hand and eyes on Rix like a bartender recognizes a face on a list. Mr. Bell, I say. Officer Walsh, he answers, handing me an affidavit and a petition for a temporary restraining order enjoining Great North and its agents from removing or contacting the child pending hearing. Judge Reed is on call for civil tonight after Martini. We've got her signature on the TRO. He taps the stamp. Fresh ink spreads like a bruise. Hospital counsel will get a copy. So will MSP. So will anyone with a wool coat and an opinion. Rix's smile thins. You'll regret this, he says to no one specific, which usually means everyone. Bell doesn't blink. File your regrets with the court. Vargas looks to Hennessy. Son, you got ID? Hennessy fumbles his wallet open. Hands shake more now. Vargas thumbs the card, checks the face, scans the expiration, and pockets it with a gentle inevitability. You're coming with us to answer questions about this seal and this practice, he says. You're not under arrest yet. Don't make me change the adverb. What adverb? Hennessy stammers. Yet, Vargas says. Rix sets his jaw like he's about to choose a different tone. I get there first. Albert, I say, using his first name for the first time because people like him hate being stripped to their bones. You came to an ER at 4 a.m. with a blank line where a judge should be and a plan to walk a child out. You put a padlock on a locker meant for rigging. You wrote chain next to a kid's name. His eyes flicker. Prove it. Bell raises the stills. Holt lifts the drive. Molly opens the spiral to the page where Sandra wrote or C and underlined it twice so hard the pen tore the paper. Hennessy whispers, Sandra? To no one. To himself, to the hallway. Leo's fingers tighten on the scarf. The heater kicks. The ceiling chain ticks like a metronome trying to get a heart back on beat. Leo's breath hitches. I soften my stance, let my voice be geography. Hey, I say over my shoulder, keeping eyes on the men, words for the boy. I'm right here. MSP reads the TRO to Rix like grace before a meal no one deserves. Hospital counsel appears in a cardigan, eyes sharp behind tired. She takes the papers and nods once. "No removal," she says to the charge nurse. "No communication. Security escort only." Ricks recalibrates. He folds disappointment like laundry. "We'll be back with our counsel," he says, making it a threat and a weather report. "Bring him a scarf," Molly says under her breath. Vargas tips his hat toward the hall. "Mr. Ricks, you'll accompany us to discuss that padlock. You too, Mr. Hennessy. Voluntary for now." Ricks looks at the boy-shaped shadow behind the curtain and makes a small mistake. He softens his mouth again, like he's seeing the puppy he thinks he owns. "Leo," he says, "you remember the rules." Leo goes still and small and old all at once. I feel it like a cold weather warning. My hand finds the fabric edge where he can find it back. He does. The scarf touches my wrist. One gentle loop. A claim he doesn't have words for. The wool is warm and alive. Vargas watches the loop. He looks at me and nods once, like a man seeing the only thing worth saluting tonight. "Let's go," he says to Ricks and Hennessy. They move, the automatic doors whisper, the air clears. Molly exhales the breath she's been holding. "Ledger lives at my place till dawn," she says. "Then we copy with hospital counsel in the room." "Good," Bell says. "Chain of custody, no gaps." I turn back to Leo. He watches the door outline in the light I left on. His eyes look wider without the fear pressing them to narrow points. He lifts the scarf, twists it once around his own wrist, then offers the other end to me. We hold that red line like a bridge. "Do they know the chains?" he asks, voice a scraped thing. "They met someone stronger," I say. "Who?" "You," I say first. Then, because he's 7, "and everyone who brought paper that tells the truth." In the hall, a snowplow shoves another ridge of night aside. The chain in the ceiling ticks, softer now, like it's tired of being the only song. Leo blinks slow. The scarf rests between us, red against white sheet. A line we didn't have before. By morning, the storm wears itself down to a wet hiss against the hospital windows. The clock over the nurse's station says 6:11. The world smells like coffee and bleach and those paper packets of salt for scrambled eggs. I'm still in the same chair, same posture, Leo's red scarf looped once around my wrist like a promise I didn't know I could keep. A woman from DHHS arrives with a wool coat still dusted white. No jangly keyring. No lanyard that clinks. She clocks the way Leo's eyes track the ceiling rails and quietly tucks her badge into her pocket. "I'm Nora," she says from the doorway, voice low, palms open. "I'm here to make sure nobody rushes you anywhere you don't want to go." Leo studies her the way he studies machines. "No chains," he says. "No chains," she answers, and means it. Hospital counsel joins us. So does James Bell with a notary in tow and his printout still warm from whatever printer he bullied into working before sunrise. Molly slips in on the edge of her shift change, hair damp, tote bag hugged to her ribs. Her eyes are red in a way that says tears didn't have time to finish. "We can keep the medical hold," hospital counsel says, flipping a page. "But by noon, we'll need a temporary placement order or the agency will try again." "Agency isn't touching him today," Bell says. "We've got a TRO keeping Great North and Ricks a county away. Judge Reed will hold a short hearing at 10. We'll ask for a 72-hour emergency placement outside the agency, citing conflict and the TRO." "Where?" Nora asks. "Placement, I mean. He needs somewhere quiet. Someone who understands noise." "I'll take him," Molly says before the sentence can get dressed. "I can be the quiet. I know how to narrate the machines so they don't sound like threats. I tempted Great North. I know what they call routine." Nora looks at her, weighing duty against the practical. "You're a hospital nurse. You need to go through emergency kinship protocols, background, home check, safety plan. It's fast, but it's still a process." "Do it," Molly says. "Come see my apartment. I have lamps, no ceiling chains. He can see the door." Leo's hand finds a scarf, rubs the stitched O like he's smoothing a worry stone. He looks at me, then at Molly. There's a way kids look at rightness when they've been taught wrong. It's like dogs finding the scent they were born to follow. "Mama wrote," he says quietly, like giving permission he's not sure he owns. Molly lifts the spiral. It's the one Sandra filled with names and dates and the kind of handwriting you adopt when you want your words to outlast you. She thumbs to a page she'd dog-eared on her kitchen counter at 4 a.m. A voicemail icon glows on the old phone in her pouch. "It's from last month," she says. "I didn't open it. I couldn't." She looks at Leo. "Now, I think I have to." I nod. Molly puts the phone face up on the bedside table and taps the triangle. Sandra's voice arrives small and brave and tinny through a speaker that should have been replaced 3 upgrades ago. "If something happens, Molly, if I don't make the hearing, please, the ledger pages, the call log. Albert says he moved Leo for safety evaluations. It's Doc C. He calls it Courier Foster. There's a tag. He used the little shampoos like it's kindness. Listen to me. Ore, C. Or..." Her breath snags. Somewhere in the background, metal sings. "If anything happens to me, tell Leo I sewed his name tight so no one could cut it out. Tell him the scarf is aligned from me to him. Tell him the red means stop. Stop when you're scared. Wait for someone who says your name right." The phone clicks. The small room swallows the quiet like it's the last warm thing on a cold day. Leo touches the scarf with 2 fingers like he's touching her voice. "She says it right," he whispers. "She says Leo, not Lee." "She does," I say, and my throat aches. Nora wipes her eyes with the heel of her hand, professional and human in the same gesture. "I'll run your background now, Molly," she says. "Home check within 2 hours. Safety plan on paper by 9. We'll be ready to present at 10. "Thank you," Molly says. The words land like a bow held just so. I step into the hall to make coffee that tastes like tan water and to call Holt for an update. He answers on the first ring. "Doc's quiet," he says. "We've got a trooper posted with our guys at 3B, 3C, 3D. Arthur pulled contractor badges for anyone who can't account for a code. Also, your white SUV left the lot just before dawn. We got plates, dealer temp, yo-yo tags. But you'll like this. When he braked at the corner, the rear camera caught his bumper sticker. Great North logo, crooked. Send everything," I say, "and keep the locker row sealed." He grunts assent. "Ricks?" "Met the TRO. MSP walked him out. He'll lawyer up. We just have to stay clean. Then wash your hands and get ready for court." Back in room 4, Leo is tracing the chain of my wrist bones with the tip of his finger, not to count them but to remind himself they're under skin, that bodies can be predictable. Molly has a to-go cup and the spiral secured under 2 rubber bands. Nora is on the phone with someone named Carla, doing the dance of expedited everything. Bell's notary stamps a document with a firm thunk that makes Leo flinch, then relax when the sound doesn't echo. At 9:20, Hospital Counsel escorts us to a glass conference room just off the lobby for a virtual hearing. Judge Reed appears in a small square on a monitor, her robe like a blanket of authority and her hair in a bun that has seen winds. She reads quickly, eyes lifting when she gets to the word locker. "Mr. Bell, your petition is granted," she says. "The temporary restraining order stands. Placement with Great North is contrary to the child's safety pending investigation. DHHS may present an alternative placement now." Nora does the thing social workers do when they step into the tightrope between rules and children. "Your Honor," she says, "we propose an emergency kinship placement with Molly Grant, RN, pending full hearing. Nurse Grant is employed by the hospital, has prior knowledge of the child's distress triggers, and has no relationship to Great North aside from a brief temp assignment last year. She has provided background clearance. We're en route to inspect her home." Judge Reed considers. "Police input?" I lean into the mic. "Evan Walsh, Marquette PD. I support the placement as the least traumatic, given this child's fear of agency structures and chains. Nurse Grant has acted in good faith and has produced evidence indicating systemic abuse. Rix's counsel appears in a second square with a smile that costs per minute. Your Honor, this is irregular. Private citizens. The only regular thing about tonight is the snow, Judge Reed says. Motion denied. Emergency placement approved for 72 hours, pending a full hearing. TRO remains in effect. Mr. Rix may appear then with his counsel and an explanation for why a padlock was affixed to a locker holding extra toiletries. Court adjourned. The screen blinks to a neutral logo. The room exhales. Leo watches me instead of the monitor. He isn't tracking law. He's tracking the lamp I set so the door glows. He's tracking the scarf that keeps finding my wrist when his fears does. Molly gets the address inspection green-lit at 9:36. We'll caravan behind Nora to her place on Pine Street. I'll follow with security's unmarked trailing us quiet, because you can be legal and still be cautious. We're almost out the ER doors when security's radio coughs. Walsh, the desk says. Holt on 2. Urgent. Holt doesn't bother with hello. We've got motion, he says. Locker row. 2 men, dark hoodies, bolt cutters. They're working 3C. Troopers on the far end with the electrician. Sound of the grinder covered it. I'm rolling men. You closer than MSP? I look at Leo, at the scarf, at the way his shoulders hunch when a door sighs. I'm closer, I say. Molly reads my face before my mouth moves. Go, she says. We'll wait with security until you say move to... Then we'll meet Nora in the lot. Leo's hand snags my sleeve, soft and quick. He pulls the scarf free, twists the end around my forearm, not wrist this time, higher, snug, like I'm the one who needs warming. For the door, he says. I'll keep it where you can see it, I tell him. I'll keep the lock from closing. He loosens his fingers one at a time, the way you do when a muscle has learned the wrong habit and you're teaching it a better one. Nora nods once like she's sworn in. Bell's eyes go to his watch, then to the hall. Security falls in beside me at a jog. The outside air is a bite. The cruiser's heater roars. Salt jumps under the tires. The sky lifts from pewter to tin. Lakeshore Road is a gray ribbon lined with snow berms, the ore dock a dark rib cage against it. As I hit the turn, my radio crackles with Holt's voice. They're at it. Padlocks on the ground. They're reaching. Static eats the rest. I take the gate 2 wheels white on ice, badge up for the camera, and gun the last yard to the locker row. 2 figures freeze in the sight line like deer. The open door breathes a box of cold where a child learned a noise. One of the men drops the bolt cutters, the other reaches inside the locker. Don't, I say, before the word chain can even think about coming back. Police! My voice bounces off steel. Hands where I can see them! The man with the bolt cutters drops them. They clatter, metal on wet concrete, too loud in the narrow run between lockers. The other, arm shoulder deep in the dark mouth of 3C, snatches something and turns like he means to tuck a lie behind his back. He freezes when he sees the muzzle of my flashlight and the badge on my chest. Back away, I say, slow, palms up. He shows me his hands. No fight yet. His hoodie is damp and salted white at the seams. The thing he grabbed lies on the locker floor where he flinched. Laminated plastic with a QR that leads nowhere. Courier Foster. A cheap lanyard string trails into the dust, sliced. Step out. To the wall. I cut a glance at the padlock lying open in a smear of sleet. The shackles scored where bolt cutters bit. Kneel. Boots pummel ice behind me. Holt arrives wide and breathing steam. A Michigan State Police cruiser ghosts in at the far end, light bar quiet. Trooper door already cracking before the car's fully stopped. Hands laced, I say. Now. They do it, which is always the strangest part, how quickly men move when the right nouns are in the air. Don't, the second one starts, head toward the locker like the box itself might tattle. Save it, Holt says, voice flat as Lake Superior rock. He shoulders in to cut the sightline to 3C and plants there like a fence post. The trooper, same sergeant from the ER, Vargas, takes one look and doesn't waste words. "Got them?" he asks. "Got them," I say. He cuffs with the particular courtesy troopers learn for men who don't yet know how much trouble they bought. "You're detained on suspicion of burglary, criminal damage, and tampering with evidence," he says. "You have the right to remain silent." "We're contractors," the bolt cutter man blurts, teeth chattering, breath pluming. "Maintenance, just clearing." "Save it," Vargas repeats. I step to the open locker and take the look I didn't get to take last night. It's smaller inside than it looks from the hall. Metal sweats cold. Shelf with hotel shampoos. The plastic basin. The vinyl pillow. And new things. A strip of duct tape stuck to the inside wall, fuzzed with red fibers like the ghost of a scarf. A child's crayon nub, blue, mashed. A wavy-edged drawing shoved in the vent seam, folded small. I ease it out with 2 fingers. Stick figures under a square. On the left, a bigger stick labeled Mom in stiff, careful print. On the right, a tiny one with a round head. Between them, a straight red line drawn heavy enough to pucker the paper. A line from the door to the tiny figure's hand. The scarf as a sentence. A way to live inside a rule that isn't a chain. "Bag that," Vargas says, eyes on my face. I nod and pull an evidence sleeve from my pocket. We work slow. Photos first. Door, lock, bite marks, the duct tape fuzz. Holt films on his phone for a second angle. The men on the wall start to shiver in earnest now that adrenaline's leaking out. Fear does that. So does guilt. "Names," Vargas says. "Bolt cutters." "Mike." He gives a last name I'll run in a minute. The other, "Todd," and his gaze keeps skipping to the door as if he could jam the drawing back into metal with his eyes. "Who sent you?" I ask. "Work order," Todd says too quickly. "Clear locker. Hazard." My smile doesn't show teeth. "At 7 a.m. in a storm?" He lifts his chin. "Overtime." "Who signed the work order?" "Didn't look," he lies, because even stupid men look at signatures that mean money. Vargas searches them one at a time. In Todd's back pocket, a phone with 3 cracked corners and 1 fresh text still on screen. "Move the kid by 8. Pennington freezing dock. Use east elevator." Vargas holds the phone up, unreadable. "Who were you moving?" he asks. "No kid here," Todd says quickly. "Just trash." "Trash doesn't draw," I say, and hold up the folded paper in its bag. Holt whistles, low. "Arthur's lawyers will eat that text like it's toast," he mutters, and I don't disagree. A pickup rattles along the fence and slows. Holt's guy on the gate steps into the lane and points him away with a palm that never touches his holster. The driver stares too long, then peels off in salt hiss. Words going to travel faster than we can. "Sit," Vargas orders. The men go down on the wet concrete. He reads the second half of Miranda while I work the inside of the locker for the thing I think I saw under the basin. My glove knuckles it out. A thin manila envelope with a corner damp. Inside, 3 sheets. A grid printed like a bus schedule. Days and initials. Coded pickup points. 3C, LW, W. WED 0900. 3B, MT. Fry 2130. 3D, JP, Sun 0600. Courier, Foster across the top. At the bottom, a faint water stain in the shape of a hand that must have pressed here in the half-dark. On the back of the last page, a note in quick script. Noisy, use chain for handle. I swallow, steady my breathing. Bag, I say, and Vargas holds a new one open. He glances at the initials. LW, he says, Leonard Whitman. And MT, I say, and JP. Kids? He asks. Probably, I say, trying not to think how you make a schedule for children like freight. Holt shifts, face hard. We're shutting this row down for real, he says. Arthur will weld these doors if a judge doesn't give him a way to do it with a bow on top. We'll do it with tape and troopers for now, Vargas says. The bow comes later. I step back and take one more look, not because I need to, because my brain wants the damage cataloged. The padlock, the duct tape with red fibers, the way someone wiped the shelf with paper towels and didn't bother to get the corners. People think cleaning means innocence. It only means they're afraid of what they left. Move, I say to the men, and Vargas walks them to his cruiser. I can smell the inside of it, vinyl and disuse and a ghost of coffee. He tucks Todd in, reads the last line of rights again, and shuts the door with a decisive hand. Holt's phone buzzes. He glances down. "Molly texted you?" he asks, and when I shake my head, he reads it without asking permission because we're past permission. Home check approved. Pine Street is ready. Leo has the scarf. Tell him the lamp is on. A small thing. A lighthouse in a storm is just a lamp with good manners. I let the thought run through me and warm the cold places. We secure 3C with police tape and a chain of custody tag that will annoy any defense attorney worth his own cologne. Vargas posts a trooper at the end of the run and another by the service gate. Holt schedules a guy to sit with them because private security plus state gray is a math that keeps most wolves in their dens. When I'm halfway to the cruiser, my radio clicks. "Walsh," security says from the hospital. "You've got a visitor sniffing the front. Not Ricks. Older. Gray coat. He asked if the boy with the scarf was being discharged. Said he's a friend of the family." "What's his name?" I ask. Said Mark Richards. Didn't offer ID. Walked like he owned the hallway. We asked him to wait for counsel. He left. Headed east. Just letting you know the wind's changing. My chest tightens, the way it does when Lake Superior pretends to be calm and isn't. "I'm inbound," I say. "Copy. Nora's keeping the kid in back till you roll in." On the drive, I call Nora. She picks up on the first ring. "We're ready," she says. "Room 4. I've got papers printed. Molly's got a bag. Leo's in his boots." "I've got the lamp," I tell her, and mean the next hours more than an object. We may have a man sniffing. Gray coat used a fake friendly name. If he comes back, you let security have him call me. No one talks to Leo except you and Molly until we're out, and we go out the north door, not the front. "Copy," she says. I'll narrate the doors. I park at the ambulance bay because my body knows the route now. When I step into room 4, Leo is at the edge of the bed, scarf looped twice around his neck and one end tucked into his fist like the tail of a kite. He looks at the lamp I angled toward the door. He looks at me. The question on his face is simple and not, "Did the lock learn my name too?" "We opened it," I say. "We found a picture." I show him the bagged drawing, his red line between 2 stick figures. "Is this yours?" He squints, then nods once, the way a boy nods at the proof he didn't know he left. "Mom," he says, tapping the big figure. "Me." He touches the line. "Stop line. Red." "You followed it," I say. He glances at the door. "Now?" "Now," I say. We go to a place where the door makes only one kind of sound. Molly shoulders her tote. Nora tucks the papers into a folder with our signatures in blue ink that still looks wet. Hospital counsel signs the discharge. Security checks the hall. The world is a list of small things done right. We step into the corridor. The heater kicks. The chain in the ceiling ticks, once, then quiets like it's learning a new song. Leo slides his hand into mine and winds the scarf around both of us, just once. A red bridge you could walk in a storm. We turn toward the north exit. Outside, a gray sedan idles 1 block away, nose pointed east. The driver's head angles just enough to watch doors without seeming to. I feel Leo's fingers dig. "It's okay," I say. "We'll go out on the other side." We pivot. Quiet. The sedan's blinker clicks, the tiniest metronome in the snow. We pivot to the north exit. Nora, walking point with her folder clutched to her chest like it's keeping her heartbeat steady. Security flanks us without touching. A quiet choreography that makes the hall feel wider. The heater exhales. The ceiling chain doesn't sing. Leo threads his fingers through mine and winds the scarf once around both our hands, careful as a boy tying a knot on a kite string. Outside, the morning is the color of tin. The hospital's lot wears a crust of salt that crackles under boots. We slide into a small caravan, Nora's state sedan in front, my cruiser behind her, Pennington's security 2 cars back in a plain gray with a dash strobe hidden like a secret. I catch a flash of the gray sedan from earlier idling 1 block over, then it ghosts east. Maybe it learned a new topography, or maybe it just learned ours. Route? Nora asks over the phone, speaker low so Leo only hears vowels. Pine Street by way of Ridge, I say. Curve around the ore yard, not through it. Copy, she says. I'll narrate the turns as we go. She does. Every lane change gets a soft line. We're going left now. Every stop sign earns a "we're safe here." When we pass the ore dock, I take the far lane and keep the steel ribs on my periphery. Leo stares straight ahead at the place where the road meets sky. We ease into Pine Street at 9:56. Marquette in daylight always surprises me with how ordinary it looks after nights like ours. Molly's building is brick with a fire escape nobody has used since the landlord fixed the back stairs. The front door has a bell that rings like a spoon on a jar. Inside, a brown runner darkens with wet boots. Someone's taped a note above the mailboxes about a community potluck postponed for obvious meteorological reasons. Molly's apartment sits on the 2nd floor with a peephole at adult height and a second one at Leo's. He notices it before any of us and exhale laughs, the smallest sound. Molly unlocks without the keys making music. Inside is soft. Lamps, not overheads, a rug that stacks footsteps, a shelf with books arranged in a way that says hands know where they go. She reaches up and takes down the single small wind chime hanging near the window. It clicks once. She catches it with both hands like a butterfly. "No chains," she says to Leo, and slips it into a drawer. Nora starts her home check with a practiced rhythm. Smoke detector tests, meds cabinet with a childproof lock. A list on the fridge, numbers that matter, allergies, none, bedtime routine, whatever makes breath slow. She looks at the bathroom, no exposed pipes low, curtain rings that don't clink. In the corner of the living room, a lamp throws a warm oval on the floor a few feet from the door. "I keep it on when nights are loud," Molly says. Leo stands in the oval and watches the door glow. He smooths the scarf and lays one end in the light like it's learning the room. "Safety plan?" Nora says gently as she sits on the edge of the couch with her folder. "We agree on a code word that means stop, look at me, we're safe." Something he chooses. Leo presses his mouth flat, thinking. He rubs the stitched O with his thumb until the wool remembers his shape. "Red line," he says. Nora writes it down. Red line it is. I make cocoa the way I wish someone had taught me. Stove, not microwave. Milk, not packets. A pinch of salt so the sweet knows what it's for. Molly breaks a pasty into a bowl and pours chicken broth over the halves so the crust softens without going mush. It smells like home in 3 zip codes at once. Irish grandma, UP hockey game, night shift breakfast. My phone hums. Holt. Still frames and access logs sent to your email and bell. Trooper posted at 3C. Contractors booked. Pennington locked badge access to everything north of Dock C. Also, your gray sedan circled the block twice, then parked at a deli on front. Ordered coffee. No tail now. Another ping. Bell. Judge Reed extended TRO to sunset tomorrow. Emergency placement order signed. Full hearing set for Wednesday at 9 a.m. Get some sleep, Walsh. I send a thumbs up I don't feel. Vargas calls before the bubble clears. "Hennessy's talking," he says without preamble. He says Ricks had him rubber stamp verifications when judges were off call, just to keep the wheels spinning. Claims ignorance. We walked him through ignorance versus fraud. He coughed a location. Storage annex behind the county building on Ridge, Unit C12. Says that's where Great North kept overflow files and courier kits. We're drafting a warrant now. Good, I say. We'll meet you there when Nora clears placement. Bring a camera and a priest, he says, in case we need either. I pocket the phone and watch Leo make a ritual out of cocoa. Sip, glance at the door, touch the scarf. He's calibrating a nervous system that learned to obey metal. Molly narrates the radiator. That hiss means warm is coming. She narrates the blinds. That clack means wind, not chains. She doesn't narrate me. I'm here. That's the script. When I set the mug down, the edge of the scarf brushes my wrist. There's a ridge at one seam, thicker than the rest, like someone doubled the yarn. I don't touch it. I make a note. Not everything gets opened on day one. A knock at the downstairs door breaks the hour. Not the spoons on jar bell. Knuckles, flat. Molly freezes without freezing. Nora stands and takes 2 steps so the peephole catches the staircase before it catches the landing. She breathes, then relaxes. Super, she says quietly. It's Rick. She cracks the door on the chain, which she lowers so it won't rattle. Rick holds up both hands like a cop visiting a crime scene he didn't cause. Lady downstairs says a man in a gray coat is parked across from the laundromat, he murmurs. Said he asked about the boy with a scarf. He rapped on the buzzer first, didn't press it, then stood there listening to the door like he could hear a signature. He scratches his jaw. Creeped me out, and I've been creeped before. Thanks, I say. Call me if he steps on the property. You don't open for anyone who says agency or law without me or Nora saying so. He nods. Not my first rodeo. He squints at Leo and then away like he'll only look when invited. Lamp looks good there, he says instead, which is the right sentence for a man to say in this room. He leaves. Nora closes the door. Her phone buzzes, background complete. She gives Molly a small smile that lands like a benediction. Approved, she says. Placement is live. Sign here, here, and here. Red line is code. Door lamp on. No visits. My cell is 24/7. Molly signs with a hand that has held too many IV taps. Leo watches her write the G in Grant and then touches his scarf like it's also a signature. He looks at me and then past me to the window. The view is Pine Street in thaw. Cars, gray slush, a man with a shovel he doesn't love. I have to go for a bit, I tell him, kneeling so my eyes meet his and everything else can fall away. With troopers, to look for the papers that tell the truth, maybe more drawings. We'll lock the door. I'll leave a radio with Molly so you can hear my voice if you want. Red line, he whispers. Red line, I echo. He unwinds the scarf from his neck, checks the lamp, then takes the end and loops it around my forearm again, higher this time. The wool is warm where it hits skin that has lived too many winters. He adjusts it with the 2 fingers like he's measuring fit. Then he nods, satisfied, and ties nothing at all. It holds anyway. My phone buzzes again. Holt. Found week-old footage. Woman at Dock C, fence 0213, gives envelope to nurse-looking woman. Zoomed, Molly. Looks like handoff night before Sandra stopped answering. Also, another angle shows Sandra with a note in red pen. Can't read. I show Molly. She doesn't flinch. She didn't trust the mail, she says. She trusted hands. She rests her palm on Leo's hair. Smart woman. Vargas texts an address. Ridge Street Annex, C12. Warrant signed. Heading over with ADA. Bring your ledger copy. Nora closes her folder and clips on her coat like armor. I'll stay, she says. You go. If the gray coat circles back, security will call you and me both. I swing the door open to a hallway that smells like winter and lemon cleaner. The lamp behind me throws my shadow long, a straight line toward the threshold. Outside, the sky has changed its mind in the way Lake Superior teaches you to expect. The wind is up again. Chains in my head try to sing. I give them a different song. Evan, Molly says, stopping me with my name the way a sister might. Be careful. Always. Down on Ridge, the annex looks like everything the county hates and keeps anyway. Cinder block, a padlocked roll-up, A sign with a number no one picks up after 4. Vargas is there with 2 troopers and an ADA in a ski cap. He hands me a copy of the warrant. He nods at the door. The locksmith steps up with tools that don't clink. Inside, I can already smell the cardboard and bleach. My phone vibrates once more. Security at the hospital, gray coat back. Said his name is Friend. Left when told to wait. Headed toward Ridge. I turn my face into the wind. The scarf's warmth lingers on my arm like a promise ink can't make. "Let's open it," Vargas says. We do, and the dark smells like paper that was supposed to stay hidden. The locksmith's gun snaps the last tumbler and the roll-up shutters. Cold air pours out of storage unit C12 with the sweet bleach of too clean. Vargas swings his light. Boxes, banker's shelves, plastic tubs labeled in a neat, soulless hand. Courier kits, eval forms, receipts. "Body cam on," the ADA says, clicking her pen like punctuation. "Copy," I say, and let the beam find what it finds. Top shelf. Stacks of laminated tags identical to the one we pulled from 3C. Each reads Courier Foster with a QR code that'll never lead anywhere. Beneath, zip bags with travel-size shampoos, toothbrushes, toddler blankets rolled tight with rubber bands, paper towels. The careful cruelty of making captivity look cared for. Vargas keys numbers on a gray lockbox. Warrant gives us permission and a spine. Inside, stamps. 2 are the county's old crest, obsolete since last year. 1 is a generic received stamp, the color of law if you've never met it. In a side tray, a notary seal embosser with the deputy clerk's initials scratched under the base in the ballpoint. The ADA exhales. Ignorance? Harder sell now. On a lower shelf, rows of blue binders. I pull one. Great North Placement Services. Site Evils. Dock C. Inside, glossy photos of the lockers shot from the hinge side to minimize the hasp. Checklists with boxes ticked good ventilation and no hazards. Signatures that look like practice forgeries and are. Last page, approved. Deputy Clerk K.H. in that syrup-smooth loop. Bag them all, Vargas says. Bell's gonna chew these like jerky. At the back, a banker's box heavier than it looks. When I lift the lid, the smell reaches out. Old paper, a ghost of perfume, the winter of a woman who wanted her handwriting to outlast her. On top, a spiral identical to Molly's, dog-eared differently. Inside, Sandra Whitman's block letters, steady and stubborn. December, called GNPS 3 times. No response, she wrote. Deputy Clerk said verification fine, no judge needed, not true. Next page, Dock C, Locker 3. He said chain for handle. Leo scared of chains. Scarf red equal stop line. If I'm gone, tell him red means wait for someone who says his name right. I don't realize I'm holding my breath until the room goes brighter. Evan! Vargas's voice from across the unit. He lifts a manila folder with a paperclip bending under it. He flicks it open. This is a lot of money made quiet. Invoices. Contractor welds. Padlocks by the dozen with bulk discounts and the notation GN3 series. Mileage logs for Courier Foster trips billed to a county grant. A memo. Overflow storage at Dock C approved. Use after hours. Quieter. Initialed AR. The ADA's face does a thing I've seen on mothers when someone insults their kids. Rick's is done, she says. If we don't indict, the world should. A shadow brushes the roll-up. Our trooper by the door leans in. Gray coat, he says, without adrenaline. Circling slow. Same sedan as hospital. Pulled to the curb. Vargas doesn't run. He looks at me. You want to do the honors? Let's see who knows chains by heart. We step into the thawed air that pretends to be spring and isn't. The man in the gray coat looks older up close, but age doesn't help him. His hair is barbershop neat. His hands are empty, like he practiced for that. He gives us a smile that says church usher, then lets it die when we don't hand him our names. Mark Richards, he offers, which is not a name I believe. I heard there was confusion about a client's belongings. I'm here to help. Help who? I ask. Great North, he says, then switches the pronoun. The children. Which is it? Vargas asks. Agency or kids? He makes the smallest mistake and glances past our shoulders at the unit where the files breathe. Agency, he says, too late. ID, Vargas says, polite as a funeral director. He hesitates, then produces a card that says Security Consultant in a font that tries too hard. The address listed is a P.O. box. The badge number printed bottom right matches nothing. Mr. Richards, the ADA says, Marquette County has a warrant on this unit. Anything you do here that's not breathing quietly will be obstruction. Anything you remove is tampering with evidence. Anything you say may be used to teach a jury what your face looks like. He lets the smile go completely. You're making a mistake. We already made one, I say. We let you think the night belonged to you. A state car nuzzles the curb. Bell steps out with his coat open and his case like a chessboard. He clocks gray coat, gives a lawyer's half smile, and shows a printed injunction with fresh ink. Mr. Richards, you've been enjoined from contact with the child, his caregivers, and anyone connected to him, Bell says. You can watch the wind work. That's it. Gray coat misjudges his radius, tries to slide a hand into his pocket. Vargas is a line before the hand gets there. Nope, he says, and the word carries all the lakes. He pats him down and brings out a key ring with an aluminum tag. GN Dock East. He brings out a folding box cutter a carpenter would recognize. He brings out a phone. On the lock screen, a message preview floats like a sin confessed. Move by 8. Use East elevator. We don't gloat. We don't need to. The cuffs click. His jaw works like he's realizing he's not the kind of wolf that gets poems. Tell Albert, he says, because men like him say names when they're spooked. This won't hold. It will, Bell says, almost kind. The law is surprisingly heavy when you stop picking it up with 2 fingers. We log everything until the light on my body cam blinks a low battery warning. The ADA photographs the stamps with the deputy clerk's initials. Vargas inventories the courier kits. I bag Sandra's spiral and the box of receipts as if hands can be gentle enough after what they've seen. By late morning, the annex is sealed. Evidence in gray tubs with labels that sound like an apology and a promise. C12, Courier. Kit Inventory. C12, Rick's Invoices. C12, Sandra Whitman, Spiral. I step into the wind for a breath that doesn't taste like paper. Pine Street sits 3 blocks away in my head. Lamplight, Coco, a boy insisting red means stop. Molly calls before I make the turn. He's dozing, she whispers, hand on the scarf. Evan, there's a seam that's thicker. I have a seam ripper. I won't touch it unless you're here, and he says yes. I noticed, I say, and my chest does something quiet. I'm on my way. At Pine, Nora meets me at the door, boots off, authority tucked in a pocket so it won't scrape paint. Hearing reset to 2, she says softly. Judge Reed wants the annex evidence on record. Bell's prepping exhibits. You've got 10 minutes for the scarf. Molly has the little tool in her palm like it can sting. Leo sits on the rug in that oval of lamplight, scarf around his neck, one end pooled in his lap. He looks at me with the seriousness of a job interview. Red line, I say. Red line. He answers and nods. I kneel. May we open the thick part? I ask. If your mom hid a note, it's yours, and you decide what we do with it. He thinks, then wraps the free end around my forearm, tight enough to be sure, not so tight I can't move. You hold, he says. I hold. Molly slides the seam ripper under the doubled yarn and lifts 2 stitches. She goes slow. The wool opens like a mouth about to speak. Inside, plastic glints. The corner of something folded and sealed. a narrow sleeve of freezer bag cut thin and stitched in place. Molly loosens 2 more stitches and eases the strip into her fingers. She sets the scarf in Leo's lap like returning a baby to a crib. He takes the plastic and pinches it like it's glass. He doesn't rush. He peels the tape and slides out a slip of paper the size of a grocery receipt. The ink is red. The letters are the same stubborn block as the spiral. He doesn't read yet. He looks at me. He looks at the door, which glows. He looks at Nora, who has her hand at her mouth, and Molly, who has hers on her heart. "Read?" he whispers. "If you want," I say, and the room holds us like a palm. He unfolds the paper. His lips move, soundless first. Then he reads, voice a bit of gravel and rain. "Leo, if you found this, the red line worked. Stop when you're scared. Look for a door with a lamp. Go with the person who says your name right and waits for you to say yes. I will always say your name right. The scarf is a bridge when I cannot be there with my hands. Keep it with you. You are not alone." His mouth trembles on the last 5 words, then steadies. He runs his finger under the lines the way kids do when they make a sentence their own. He presses the paper to his chest, and then to the scarf, then to my forearm where the wool holds. "Court at 2, Nora says softly, a reminder wrapped in mercy. "We'll take the bridge with us." I nod, throat tight. I think about the ore dock and its teeth. I think about a chain singing in a ceiling. I think about how people think children don't write history. They do. Sometimes they draw a straight red line. "Let's go," I say. Outside, Marquette wears the color of decision. The lake is a steel sheet. The ore dock stands against it like an apology waiting to be made. We step into the hall. Leo tucks the note back into the scarf's pocket with a care that would make surgeons cry. He loops the tail around my arm. The lamp behind us throws a long red line across the floor toward the door. We walk it. Judge Reed's courtroom isn't wood-paneled grandeur. It's a bright square on the 2nd floor with snow melting off boots and a view of the ore dock like a scar you can point to. At 1:58, we're all there. Nora, with her folder and a pen that doesn't rattle. Molly with the spiral and the scarf's little plastic pocket tucked safe. Belle with a stack of exhibits the weight of a short winter. Vargas with the text that read, "Move by 8. ADA Collins with the stamp and seal, and me at the end of the row where I can see the door." Leo sits between Molly and Nora, small and present. The red scarf looped once around his neck and once around my forearm. The bridge Sandra sewed, working overtime. Rix arrives in a suit that thinks it can outrun chain. His counsel is tight as a drum. Deputy Clerk Hennessy walks in pale and cooperative, the way men do when they've met the edge of their story and decided to stop pretending it's a road. Graycoat, Mark Richards, doesn't make it through the door. MSP holds him downstairs with a charge sheet that reads like inventory. Judge Reed calls us to order and doesn't waste time pretending any of this is abstract. "We're here on the emergency placement and the temporary restraining order," she says, eyes skimming the docket like a lake reader watching wind. "The court has reviewed the TRO, the hospital's medical hold, the Pennington Minerals surveillance, the C-12 annex warrant return, and the submitted communications." She looks over the bench at Leo and softens her voice without softening the law. "Mr. Whitman, you can sit as long as you need." Bell stands. He doesn't perform. He places exhibits like stones across a stream and invites the court to walk. Dock stills, keypad code 0339, the padlock marked GN3C, the courier kit tubs, the stamp set with the old crest, the notary seal with KH scratched under the base, the schedule with LW, WED EO 900, and the note noisy. Use chain for handle. He doesn't show the scarf pocket note on the overhead. He offers it as a sealed exhibit for in-camera review, because some words are not for rooms full of strangers. Reed nods. Respect lands. It has weight. ADA Collins threads the rest. Invoices, grant bills, weld orders, the overflow storage at Dock C approved memo initialed AR. She calls Vargas. He is plain and sure. She calls Holt. He is the ore dock at midnight. Fewer lights, more shadows, everything watched. She calls Hennessy. He does not crumble. He explains the after-hours verifications, how Ricks told him judges signed these in spirit, how he stamped what arrived and slept because you can do both until you can't. He says I'm sorry and doesn't try to make it poetry. That, too, lands. Ricks's counsel objects where the rules invite, insists on context, offers a story about temporary accommodations and misunderstood safety. He says locker when everyone else says box. He says ventilation when everyone else says hasp. He says chain once and flinches at his own mouth. When it's my turn, I don't give them weather or heroics. I give them chain. How it sounds in a ceiling at 2 a.m. and in a child's body at the word. How fear makes kids count doors. How an officer can stand between a boy and a curtain, and that does not make him a savior. It makes him furniture the fear can't move. I say, or, dock like a place and a practice. I say the scarf is a red line that means stop, then look for a lamp, then wait for the person who says your name right. I say his mother sewed that instruction into cloth because she knew paper can be stolen. I don't look at Ricks. I look at Leo because the court is supposed to be a room that says your name right. Judge Reed listens the way a doctor listens when heartbeats go off time and you can see the counting in her face. When we're done, she leans forward and lets the words do what gavel strikes only pretend to do. The court finds, she says, that Great North Placement Services, through Director Ricks and agents, used restricted space at Dock C to unlawfully confine children under the pretext of placement, employed falsified or improperly stamped documents to effectuate movement, and directed subordinates to circumvent judicial oversight. Emergency placement with Nurse Molly Grant is granted for 30 days pending full hearing. The department will move for foster licensure expedited and a home study completed within 7. The TRO is extended and broadened. Mr. Ricks, his agency, and any agents are enjoined from contact with the child, his caregiver, or any witness. The court orders the immediate cessation of operations at Great North pending investigation, the impound of all assets related to courier kits and off-site storage, and the appointment of an independent auditor. The district attorney may proceed with charges as indicated, and the court will entertain a petition to appoint a receiver for the agency to protect children currently placed. Ricks's counsel starts to rise. Reed lifts one finger. Sit. You will file your objections in writing. If you speak to the press, speak carefully. Words weigh more than you think. She looks to Leo again. Young man, the red line worked. You chose the right doors. You are not alone. The record will show she said it. The room will remember she meant it. Outside, reporters loiter and guess. We take the back stairs that don't sing. In the hallway, Pennington waits with his coat open and his throat raw from a night without sleep. He doesn't shake my hand. He crouches so his eyes are level with Leo's and says, "You're braver than Orr." Then he stands and hands me an envelope. Flash drive copies, chain of custody forms, and a card with a number that answers at 3 a.m. Dock crews are cutting hasps under MSP watch at 4, he says. If the boy wants to see a chain fall, he adds, I can make it the last time he hears it up close and knows it isn't for him. We go because control isn't avoidance. It's rewiring. We stand a dozen yards back, troopers quiet, welders in masks catching cold sparks, the lake doing its big breath thing. 3C's padlock lies in evidence. The hasp is next. A grinder screams once, high, hard, and the sound cracks the air. Leo jolts. My hand is already there. He winds the scarf around our arms to the elbow like he's splinting us. The shower of sparks looks like a bad idea and a blessing. The hasp lets go with a clink that would get lost on a normal day. Today, it is a bell you ring for mercy. Holt tosses the hot piece into a bucket and gives Leo a two-finger salute. The chain on the catwalk rattles in the wind like a thing that just realized it's unemployed. Molly kneels. "Noise is leaving," she narrates. "Listen to it go." He listens. The scarf slackens by tiny degrees. His breathing settles into a count that's half mine, half Lake. He doesn't look at Ricks, who isn't there, or Richards, who can't be. He looks at the doorway, and then at the lamp of the sun showing up for a shift behind cloud. Back at Pine Street, the lamp by the door glows warm as broth. Nora writes the last line of the safety plan and tucks it in the magnet corner where rent receipts usually go. Belle signs whatever judges need so that chains live on paper now, where they can be weighed. Vargas goes to cut a warrant into charges. ADA Collins takes the stamps to lockup and carries them like eggs. I make more cocoa because rituals are medicine, and no one writes that on their bottles. Leo sits on the rug's oval of light and spreads the scarf across his knees. The seam we opened lies neat again, loosely laddered so we can seal it later, like skin. He takes Sandra's note from the plastic pocket and reads the last 5 words to himself until the shape of them feels like breath. He looks up. "Do the chains know?" he asks. Not afraid, not yet triumphant. Curious, the way you get when your world has edges you can finally lean on. "They do," I say. "They learned your name and let go." He thinks about that with his whole face. Then he does a thing no law prepares you for. He stands, steps into the lamplight so it paints both our boots, and lifts the scarf like a sash. "Bridge," he says, and drapes one end over my shoulder and the other over his. He adjusts until the red line lies straight from him to me, door to door, night to morning. We stand like that while the heater hisses its ordinary song and the street below clanks with ordinary chains on a snowplow that will never know its name. The lake breathes. The ore dock holds. The lamp burns. And the boy and I hold the red line between us until his fingers loosen and he smiles like a winter finally gave back what it took. We walked home along that red line, the lamp in the window already burning.